Hey guys, Sal here with Details Growth. Welcome back to another coaching call. In this specific coaching call, we're going to be talking about all pricing objections and how to overcome them. I'm sitting down with my sales coach, Aaron Lahman. Aaron, how are you, man?
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me again. I appreciate you.
Awesome,
It's going to be
man.
an
Yes,
excellent call.
yes, it's going to be full of nuggets. Aaron, real quick, before we dive in, can you give us a quick introduction to your detailing journey, where you started and where you're at today?
Yeah, for sure. Started the company at 15 years old, and with my business partner, who is also 15. We just turned 20. We've been doing it just under 5 years now, and
Nice.
we've got now two shops, 7,500 square feet total, with 21 employees, and
Jesus.
a freaking crushing. So the biggest thing is just you always got to keep your foot on the gas and never put on those
Yes.
brakes. It's just a lot of hard work and put your mind to it, and you could do anything. So yeah,
Yes.
that's kind of where we're at now.
I think 7,500 square feet plus 20 over 20 employees is a good reason to listen to Aaron. So, without further ado, let's dive right into the first pricing objection, which is I can find it somewhere else cheaper. Basically, hey, spoke with this other person, they gave me a lower price. Why is your quote more expensive? Aaron, how would you overcome that certain objection?
Yeah, so the biggest thing is I always like to build value. So it's explaining to the client, well, you can always get anything cheaper. You can get everything in life cheaper. You can go to a different grocery store and get something cheaper, but there's a few things that play into, well, why would I come to you? You're a little bit more expensive, depending on what you offer. But quality of work, customer service, convenience are all biggest things that a lot of clients look for, especially in this industry. And the biggest driver of any sale is emotion. So getting them to emotionally feel like you're going to be the better option really is going to throw that price out of the way. And the biggest thing that I want to add when it comes to like objections and pricing objections in particular is that it's all based on value. So if you
Yes.
don't feel like your client is getting the value, or you don't feel like you'd buy from your own pitch, you probably should change a few things, right? So there's probably not enough value built between why you're charging X and why they're charging Y. And their value comes from it's less expensive. And you don't want your value to come from price. You don't want to be
No.
price driven. You want your value to come from your service that you offer and
Yes.
what you're tailoring to your clientele. So
Yeah.
that's
And
that's what I say when it comes to that.
And real quick, you mentioned a good point about building trust, right? Because that's ultimately what's going to drive their decision. Can I trust Aaron and his shop with my vehicle,
Of
right?
course, even yeah, I would rather give somebody $500 more to take care of my vehicle if I know that it's going to be
Yes.
in safe hands. And a lot of people emotionally don't want to risk $500 or $300 or $100, whatever the case may be, to get a job done cheaper somewhere else. So educating your clients and building that trust is super important.
What are some ways that you found to be the most effective when it comes to highlighting certain benefits to build that value?
Yeah, so what we do here is consultation based selling. So we have all of our clients come in for consultations, but I sold a job over the phone so this morning. So we do both ways. But when it comes to that objection, it's really just building up value on why you're the better option while not talking down about the other shop. So
Yes.
building that value of, well, we offer Carfax reports, or whatever the case may be, and I challenge you to write down right now, just get a piece of paper out and a pen, and write down 10 reasons why you are the shop to go to. And if you
Yes.
can't come up with 10 right out the gates, and you're just sitting there like,
We have better
uh,
pricing.
uh,
Yeah.
like you're never going to make that sale because you don't even know how to build your value. I mean, service, quality, the convenience factor, the fact that you're easy to find, the fact that you're going to be around for a long time. People don't need to worry about warranties. The fact that you do have warranties, that you don't have warranties, Carfax reporting, Carfax reporting. There's a bunch of things
Yes.
that go into it. Experienced and skilled technicians. Do you send your guys to training? Are your guys certified technicians? Your guys just learn off of YouTube like every other detailer? Like
Yes.
where do you come from when it comes to building that value between what you offer and what the competition offers? I just won a job today. The client called me and said that my price was outrageous and that he wanted to spend, give or take, $600 on an undercoating. So I was selling an undercoating protection, and I went over all of the different benefits. And it was maybe 30 minutes later when he goes, "Here's my credit card," on a $2,000 undercoating job. the difference between $600 and 2,000 is a lot. That's not any chump change. And that's like over double. That's over
Yeah.
triple the cost that he wanted to pay. And the other shop had his business, and the way that we took it over was building value on why ours is important. Ours is a one-time application versus $600 every few years. $600, $600, $600. It built that emotion to that particular client of, hey, I know that when I come to Aaron, it's going to be my last time I have to go to him. And that's what we build in terms of value. Well, that's different than another company. So that's why you have to write down your own, because no one can just spoon feed why your business is the better option. That's why we have something called monopolies in economics, and why we don't have every client is, every shop is not the same. So that's what kind of differentiates our shops, is your shop or your mobile service maybe has a different services that you offer versus another shop or another mobile guy. So those things differentiate us. So I can't just say this is why you're the better shop, because we don't know. Sal and I don't know. But if you can write down confidently 10 reasons why and use those on your next sales pitch, I can guarantee that with enough effort, you can close them.
And just to give some ideas out there, I think some of the things that we've seen work really well are your Google rating, right? How many reviews you have, whether you have a shop, because having a shop is something, it's counterintuitive, because you would think that if you're mobile, the convenience factor would be the thing that, gets somebody to the schedule. That's actually not the case. It's actually the opposite, where having a shop is more likely to give somebody that perspective of, this person's serious. They've been in business. They're a physical location. I can go to them. I can see what they're about. Like, that already built a lot of trust right off the bat. So that's a huge part there. Carfax is a good one. Your experience, the products that you use, warranties. So all of those are just some ideas that you can write down there. But it ultimately comes down to that trust factor, right? Do I trust Aaron with my vehicle? And will I know that he does it right the first time? If you can articulate that to whoever you're talking to, you will most likely win their business.
Always. Yeah, that's exactly
and I think
right.
that'll be a common theme as we go to the next question and further questions. So, Aaron, next question, next pricing objection is, I'm not sure if it's worth the investment. So somebody is willing to invest into it, but they're just not sure if it's worth it. How would you tackle that objection?
Yeah, I tackle that all the time. I play into emotion. So I ask them what's called, a consequence. That's what it's called. Okay. Yeah. So I actually ask them what's called a consequence question. What is the consequence of not doing X service? So, for example, with a coating. Okay. Well, Johnny, I know that you want your paint coated, but what would be, how would you feel if it got your paint faded? How would you feel if, you got a ton of bird droppings and etched tree sap in your paint in 2 years from now? How does that make you feel? What is the consequence of not doing a ceramic coating? Well, I can clean your interior detail, but what happens if you don't get it detailed? You're going to be living in a mess. And you get the prospect to say what that consequence is, and when they can verbally say it, it goes emotionally, and it follows their brain. It goes back in kind of like just without them even knowing, right? So like subconsciously. But figuring out what a consequence is for them not doing it is the best way to get a prospect to get emotional enough to say, you know what, I need that right now.
Yeah. It becomes more of a need than a want. And the reason why they're reaching out to you is because maybe they haven't said it out loud, but they know subconsciously, or they've been thinking about it, that, hey, I just got this brand new vehicle. If I don't protect the paint, it's not going to look brand new for a lot longer, right? So that's a very good point. So just to recap, you get them to articulate what could happen if they don't get the coating or they don't get that
Correct.
PPF.
The consequence. Exactly right. That's exactly
Very,
right. Yep.
That's a good one. Is there anything else as far as, somebody who might not think that a coating is worth it?
Yeah, I mean, if they don't think a coating is worth it, you kind of have to dig into deeper of what made them want it in the first place, and kind of dig on why they want to protect it and see what it is worth to them. And a lot of times, clients or prospects, it's worth it for them for X, Y, or Z, but it's not worth it for another reason. And maybe you do your entire sales pitch of a ceramic coating on that the paint stays a lot cleaner for longer, easier maintenance action, which during a sale, you really, at the beginning of the sale, you can completely just proactively get rid of this objection by figuring out what their needs are, and then they're going to find the value in what you provide to them. If you just sell every single person off the street a ceramic coating, there's going to be a lot of people that probably don't want or need a ceramic coating. So for them
Yeah.
to actually feel like they need it, they need to express that, there are concerns for the solutions to the problems that you have. So it's very important that you understand, like, what is their problem? What problems does this prospect
Yeah.
have? And then how can I solve that?
Yeah. And this is something that we try to identify as soon as possible within the call,
Correct.
within that first stage of rapport building. So once you identify that, you're able to drill into that objection a little bit more, because it might be different. Somebody's just looking for paint correction, or if they're just looking for the protection, right? They're going to all have different definitions of how it would be worth it for them. So that's a
Correct.
good point there, Aaron. Okay, cool. So third pricing objection is I don't see how it's cheaper from a sealant or a wax. How do you tackle that objection? They compare it to an inferior product.
Yeah, if you compare something to an inferior product, then you want to look at the longevity of the product that you're offering and break it down to them in baby steps. So I always
Yes.
break down a coating, and I show them that a coating over time is going to be less expensive per year, by breaking it down. We do a little bit of math, but on average, a coating, I charge $2,500 to $3,500. We can just meet in the middle at $3,000, and we offer a 7-year ceramic coating. So when you look at a wax or a sealant, our wash and wax is $300, which you need. A wax only lasts 3 to 6 months max. So,
If that, yeah.
right, if that, right? So that's, when you're looking at it like that, I always go on the conservative side for my clients. So I say, okay, let's just say that the last wax, every time it lasts 6 months, and you don't get all the benefits of a ceramic coating, and there's also the time factor of you having to get it redone every single 6 months. But let's just say twice a year you come out and get your vehicle washed and waxed by us, and clients do it all the time. It costs approximately $600. Okay, $300 the first time, $300 the second time. That's an exterior detail wash and wax. $600 times 7 years is $4,200. So $4,200 one
Yeah.
time. I don't know about you, but I do not like spending an extra $1,200 just because. And you can even do it differently. You can say your wash and wax is $200, and that's $400 times 7 years. That's $2,800. And then you can build the value on the extra 200, or discount it to 2,800, or maybe you sell your coatings for 1,500 or 2,000. But I'm just giving you very, 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 high, very decent wax and sealant price, plus the factor of your time and having to come back and get it redone and applied. So when you break something down in baby steps, they can see, oh wait, it actually is better for me to do a coating as opposed to
Yeah.
a sealant or a wax every 6 months or 3 months.
So, Aaron,
Months.
have you found that breaking the numbers down is more effective, or is it more effective to take that emotional approach when it comes to comparing waxes or sealants to a coating?
So that's a great question, Sal. So you want to actually do both. So the first approach is a logic approach to get them thinking.
Okay.
And then what you do is you go to the emotional approach. So that way they can get in their feelings. And then you go back to the logical approach. Do you know why? You go back to the logical approach so they can rationalize their emotions.
Nice.
Think about it like that. If every one of your prospects gets emotional with you, then they're able to rationalize their emotions. They're going to buy every time. I like to use food for an example. Okay. When you are on a diet, okay, you cannot eat whatever you're dieting. So I am on a diet for sweets, and I cannot eat cookies. Okay. But I really want a cookie right now. And the reason why I want a cookie, rationalizing it, okay, is because it's going to help make me happier. It's going to make me feel good. It's going to make my taste buds all warm and fuzzy.
Yep.
And it's going to make me smile. Cookies are just good. I love chocolate chip cookies. Just the chocolate chips, when they're really good, but they're also like spread out on the cookie, so then you get more of the cookie than the actual
Yeah.
chocolate chip bite. I love it, okay? And I'm just a cookie guy. So, okay, think about this. If I could have a chocolate chip cookie right now and I could feel good, that's the emotion. And then the logic, I can rationalize it by going, okay, I haven't had cookies in 2 months. I won't have any cookies for another 2 months. So now you rationalize your emotion on, I really want a cookie. It's going to taste really good. It's going to make me feel good. But also, I probably won't have another cookie again because I'm on this diet. Or I dieted for the last week, so I could have one cookie, right? Or these cookies are low calorie, so I could probably have a few versus just one. Or that's the logic behind your emotion. So clients do it all the time, or your prospects do it all the time. If they can rationalize with logic, with dollars, the fact that they need their car protected and coated because of X, Y, and Z, your three main factors of why, then every time they're going to want to buy the coating.
Yeah, it just makes more sense for them, both
Of course.
numbers wise and hey, I really don't want to apply this wax every 3 months, every 6 months. Yeah, that can get very tedious, especially if somebody's a car enthusiast. They're probably already doing that right now. You could save them that time and that money with a coating. So great approach. All right, Aaron, let's go to the fourth pricing objection, which is I don't have the budget. I can't afford it. In other words, how would you overcome that pricing objection?
I figure out what their budget is at this moment and what their budget is in the next coming few weeks, months, years, whatever the case may be. So you budgeted $300 for this wax job. Okay, great. Let's take $300 deposit now. And then when's your next budgeting? Your next budget's next month. So it's going to take you approximately on $3,000, 10 months for $300. That's not a problem. I'll book you 10 months out in advance, and every single month, give me $300 to budget it out. Just work with your prospect. Don't let them say no. We need
that's one
to
approach.
eat.
And then the other approach, which is kind of similar, which is financing. I think financing can alleviate a lot of those budget constraints because it is a lot of money to, invest into that service, whether it's coatings, PPF, it's still a lot of upfront cash. So if you can spread that out, even better.
When it comes to spreading out, financing is a great option. Just figuring out what is their budget on what they can afford. I mean, people budget every single month. If you have an extra $300 a month to spend, I'm more than happy to take the $300 a month and coat your car. We either got to finance it so we're both protected, or we can do, a layaway sort of option where you're paying as the months get closer. And it's a very good strategy to allow your prospect to have the funds. Most of the time your prospects do not have the want to inquire most of the time if they cannot afford something in the first place. They have to have some sort of additional revenue, additional income, some sort of excess money to where they're like, oh, I kind of want this for protection. Okay. Or
yes.
You don't inquire about a particular service if you don't have any funds. Now, maybe your funds are off. Maybe you have $200 and I need 2,000, or maybe you have $500 and I need 5,000, whatever the case may be. But you still have some excess funds. You have an excess $200 or an excess $500 or an excess $50. You have some sort of excess money. If you're broke, your prospect's probably not going to come in or call expecting it to be $1 or free, right? You don't go to McDonald's broke. You go to McDonald's because you have extra money. You go to the grocery store, or hopefully you do, to make your food at home if you can't afford going out and spending money every night, okay? Because you have the excess funds, to go to McDonald's versus McDonald's doesn't need a sales pitch. All their selling has been done over the course of the last hundreds of years, but it's still a sale. They're still making money off of you. They're still getting your business because you want to taste their food. And so it's just emotion playing into it.
Okay. So just to recap that, it's either going to be being super flexible with them, putting down that deposit every month till you're able to kind of pay that off with financing. Okay. So what if somebody, just to throw out a scenario here, Aaron, what if somebody sees your ad, they're like, hey, I have a 5-year-old vehicle. It's kind of beat up. The paint's a little, but I want my car to look how it looked like in the ad. But my budget is super tight right now. What kind of approach would you take with that kind of lead, Aaron?
Yeah, so I would see if we could either do it in stages. So that's one option. Hey, can we do this in stages to where, maybe we can start with like a one-step paint correction to get your paint back to be, nominally better. And then we can do a 2-step, in about 6 months to a year when you've got more of a budget. Another option is, if you need to finance it with them, of course, right? Based on, the fact that there's going to need more work than just like a brand new vehicle. And the third option is, and this is something that a lot of people in sales, especially sales, don't like to hear, but maybe they're not the client for you, and not all money is good money. And that's something to note
Yes.
as well, and something to highlight, because not every single client is the one that's right for you and your business. And there are always, not sometimes, always more headaches when somebody is giving you hassle, whether
Yeah.
it's on money, price, budget, on the work, the quality, you have insurance, I mean, whatever the case may be, right? So like, not all money is good money. Now, that's not to say that just because they can't afford you doesn't mean you don't want them as a client either. That's
Right.
price, that's discrimination. So you have to put it into perspective of like, well, can you not afford it at all, or do you just not want to pay the price that we're asking for? Do you see the value, right? And you don't be afraid to lower the package that they're getting. Maybe they can't afford a $3,000 package, but they sure as heck can afford a $2,200 package or a $2,000
Yep.
package. So that's something to note as well. Like, maybe they actually can afford, they just don't want to afford the top tier or the middle tier. Maybe they want the lowest tier. And there's some clients that we have that only want the lowest tier. They're super happy, they want to be our clients, but
Yep.
they just don't want the highest tier. And that's totally okay. They have the money to spend on what they want. So those are kind of the options there. But to go back to what you were saying, Sal, in overcoming that, they have 5-year-old paint and they just want it, they want it to be, look how it did when it first rolled off the showroom floor, but they don't have a small budget. Well, open up your pocketbook, baby. Let's go. Let's see what do you have to spend. Let's see
Yeah.
what we can spend, and then go from there.
So, Aaron, what are some signs that a detailer out there can look out for to know if that person they actually can afford it, or they're just choosing not to afford that package?
Yeah, it's called soft close. So soft closing your prospects, figuring out if it's something that can work for them or not by giving them a ballpark, by giving them a range of pricing is a good way to do it. Also asking if they want a particular date on the calendar before you actually are booking it, or do they want to move forward with this, are good soft
Yeah.
close options. But when it's right at the beginning of the call, or outside, I always like to ask somebody what their budget is. What do you have to spend on this particular protection? What is it, or how many funds have you allotted for this project? And it's not to necessarily, although it sometimes comes off as closing them off on the price, like, well, my budget's 2,500. That's a sales resistance word, which means that budget is a resistance word, which means you can't go above it. Even though if
Right.
their budget's 2,500, we need to get them to 3,000. That's going to put resistance in their mind. So sometimes I like to ask, well, what do you think, is a number that you can't go over, or do you, like, what's the type of funds looking like that you've allocated towards this project? As opposed to saying budget, you can say, well, what are the funds that you've allocated towards this project? And that's a good way as well to kind of figure out where their head's at. If you tell them, well, you're looking at budget between 1,500 and 2,000 for a ceramic coating, and they're like, yeah, I kind of wanted to be around that 1,500 mark, 1,000, maybe 1,500, you're in the clear.
Perfect.
You're good. That's perfect. But if they say, well, yeah, I was kind of looking to spend like $200 or $300, okay, I don't want to waste your time or mine. Let's talk. This is going to be $1,500, $2,000. Is that even remotely where you can be? And they're going to cut you off before you can even finish. No, I have a good day. Okay. Or they're just going
Yeah.
to hang up the phone on you.
Well, Aaron, with that last point about them having a price in mind, have you found that that's solely a dollar amount issue, or them not knowing what a coating is and the benefits of it compared to a wax? What I hear from clients and detailers I talk with is, hey, this lead came in, but they thought a ceramic coating was a wax. Like, do you try to clear up any of that confusion before letting them go, or do you let price be that main driver?
I always want to do some sort of, not a soft close, but some sort of like qualification.
Okay.
Which, if they come in, should be done on the phone before their consultation appointment. And if you're on the phone, explaining a little bit of what they want, well, figuring out what they want first and then explaining a little bit of it is always going to be better, and then qualifying them. You don't want to just throw everybody to the curb immediately. That's not really sales.
No, no.
But figuring out like what they need, what they want, then going into a more, consultative approach of education, and like, hey, what what is it that you are looking to get done? And then how can I educate you on what you actually want from us? Then asking them, well, is there a number you kind of don't want to go over for this? And now you've built at least a little bit of value for them to not just lowball you either. But
Yeah.
that most of the time when they give us a price that's lower than what we're going to quote them, it doesn't mean that they're dead leads. It just means that now I know what they value this at, and I know how much value I have to build. If someone comes in and they said, I know I need to spend around $3,000 for a ceramic coating, I'm going to be like, okay, perfect. What questions do you have? Let's get you scheduled. If they come in wanting $1,500 to maybe 2,000, okay, well, I understand that you want. What questions can I answer for you? And then
Yeah.
start going over a process. I mean, start building value. Start explaining why you're worth $3,000, not 1,500, maybe 2,000, right?
Yeah. So that is also another thing is, Aaron, if you could just double click on this, I think it's very easy to give somebody a price, the lead react and say, oh, that's a lot more than I was expecting. And then the detailer not know where to take that conversation. Usually that's the end of the conversation there. How do you keep that door open after you give somebody the price and it's a lot more than they were expecting?
Yeah. So to double click on that sale, when I give somebody the price and it's not that what they were expecting, I ask them, well, what did you expect? And I start questioning them. The more questioning abilities that you have as a sales rep, the better. Okay.
Yeah.
Questioning them on everything. Do not let them start thinking. The minute that a prospect starts thinking, it's going to go downhill. So just continue to ask them question after question after question after question after question. And
Yeah.
you don't want to stop until you can factor in, you're building value on these questions, which is then going to bring their valuation of your product and service up.
Yes.
So, well, why did you want it in the first place? What made you think about that particular budget? Or, where's your head at on what you wanted it to cost? Well, 2,000's a little steep. I was thinking more like 15 to 1,800. Okay, I could do it at
Perfect.
$1,800 right now.
Yeah.
Done. Okay.
But that door would
Well,
not have been open if you didn't ask that question. What were you
correct.
expecting? What price
Correct.
range did you want to stay in?
That's exactly right. You have to understand that your prospects are never going to open up unless the gate is down and unless you're friends with them. So you need
Yes.
to continue to create that friendship with them, but also at the same time, I mean, come on now, you got to ask them questions. You got to. Sales is all about personality and persuasion and building that value and that trust with the prospect. So you kind of got to ask them questions because they're not just going to go and ask you questions. Like they're not going to just carry on a conversation, and if they do, it's very few and far between.
Yes. That is very true. So, next pricing objection, Aaron, is
Hit
when
it.
somebody says, I'm just getting quotes. I
Oh,
just
I
want to
love
quote,
that one.
just getting quotes for now. How do you overcome that objection?
Yeah, so I always give them a ballpark price and then ask them if it's worth it. And my SDR team does that as well. Figuring out, hey, do you think that 2,000 is worth it? And if they say no, then okay, well, let's figure out why not. And if they say yes, then we already know we're in the clear on quality and actually good work. So when someone says that they're getting other quotes, I do a few different things, but the number one thing that I say is I invite you to go get other quotes. I think it's very important
Yes.
because I'm a buyer myself and I like to get other quotes myself. And I think that it's very important that you get other quotes as well. But one thing that I'm going to say, and I don't want to be cocky, but I know I'm the best. So with that being said, I can work with you a little bit on price to make it more worth it for you to pull the trigger today.
Yeah.
But all you're going to do is you're just going to find crappy quality, waste your time, and go get other quotes that make no sense. They're not going to do what we're doing, showing you the entire process. They're not going to do what we do in giving them the education that you need to make an informed decision. Because right now, you're making an informed decision. When you go get quotes from other shops, they're not going to give you any of that. And so what can
Yes.
I do to set myself apart from those other shops in my quoting process?
Yeah. And this is where you can set yourself apart. So, this goes back to that first objection about them finding it cheaper somewhere else, right? Whether you're the first person they call or the third person, if you're able to navigate that conversation better than your competitors, you're already at an advantage without considering the
Huge
price.
advantage.
Because a lot of your competitors will pick up the price, give them a quote, and then hang up. They don't ask those questions about what were you expecting? What is your price range? Is it worth it for you? And that's a really great question, Aaron, because their answer, you could go both directions with their answer. Yes or no? Is it worth it? No, why not? What do you value? Yes. Okay, great. Now it's an easier transition into closing them, but that's a great question to ask, Aaron. So
Of course.
you want to invite them
Yeah.
to get quotes. And like I mentioned, going back to that first question about them finding it cheaper somewhere else, this is your opportunity to like really boost yourself. Hey, these are Google reviews. I invite you to do all the research you can. Check out our SEO or our blog page, right? So there's a lot of information that you can give them. Even better, if you have those videos ready to go. Hey, John, I know you're shopping around for quotes. I want to send you this 15-minute long video where I walk you through the entire process. I go over the products we're using, show you what the process looks like from start to finish so you can make that informed decision. Great point,
I
Aaron.
love that one. I love that one for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, and another really big thing is like, okay, so you're looking for other quotes, but I don't want to invite you to go somewhere else. The reason why you do it is to let their guard down, to make you feel like you're not just bear
Yeah.
crawling at them. I mean, you're not running at them, right? Like
Right.
this is not trying to feel like a hard sell. This is not you trying to make this like a hard sell, right? Like what you're
Right.
doing is you're just providing value and trust and emotion, and you want them to say yes without you having to go over all of these different options. So you invite them because I'm more than happy. Like you're more than welcome to go look at your competitors' options. That's what we're here for. Like
Right.
we want you to pick the best decision possible because we want you to go where you're comfortable. And at the end of the day, right, between business owner to business owner, if they're not comfortable, then it doesn't matter how good of a job you do. They're always going to give you shit. They're always going to, make you feel like something is not 100% perfect because they didn't ever feel comfortable. They have buyer's remorse or whatever the
Yeah.
case may be.
Yeah. So if you can build that trust right off the bat, that's where you get amazing clients to work with. You get the word out and it becomes a lot easier. So
That's exactly right.
the last question, Aaron, I think this is my personal favorite. My personal favorite pricing objection.
Hit me.
Let me talk to the wife.
Yeah, what's she going to say? Is this her car?
This is
I
her.
love that
No,
one.
it's my car. It's my car, Aaron.
Okay, good. Well, last time I checked, your wife doesn't make decisions about your car. She makes decisions about her car. So let's get to
Yeah.
the point here. And all I do is I ask them straight up. I say, what is the real objection? That's what I say. Straight up.
Yeah. Because it's a smoke screen. 9 times out of
Just a
10,
smoke screen.
let me talk with the wife is a smoke screen.
Yeah, and I
To
use
what,
it all the
Aaron?
time. Yeah, it's a smoke screen to them. There's some other objection, whether they don't want to pay that price, whether they don't see the value, whether they don't want to do it right now, where they really can't afford it. There's a bunch
Yeah.
of different ways that they need to get around it. And anytime someone ever says that to me, which is so rare because we do a proactive selling approach,
We'll talk
is
about that real
this.
quick here at
Yeah.
the end.
Well, we'll mention that briefly. That'll be a snippet into a
Another
nugget for
video.
another video. Yeah.
Yes.
But when I do a proactive approach, I don't get that. Let me talk to the wife very rarely. But when I used to, it's just a matter of, can you please just tell me what is it that you don't like about this? Is it the product? Is it my process? Is it my shop? Is it me? Is it the price? Did you not want to pay this much? 9 out of 10 times they're like, well, I didn't want to pay this much for this service, or I don't see the value in XYZ. And then I can actually conquer that objection. Now I have an objection to conquer. Okay, you don't see value. Well, what do you not see value in? Let's go over that. Okay, because when it comes to price, we can build value on price, but you will never be able to pass the let me talk to the wife if there's no wife to even for them to even talk to you about. And
Right.
so it's just a huge smoke screen of like, okay, well, I don't really know what to say right now, except I need to get out of this situation. And then there goes this like frantic approach of the prospect now wanting to get out of the conversation. I
That
just
is a
had it
good
happen
point.
20 minutes before this call.
Yeah.
Yes, he's
And
on the calendar with a deposit.
he said, let me talk to the wife. And because a lot of the times, Aaron, if you can, hopefully you could do this before you get to the point where they do come up with a fake objection. Like, pricing will most likely be the main thing. But if you could go back to that and say, hey, what is within your price range? What were you expecting to pay? What's your budget? And if you're able to mention financing, that's even better. But if you're able to get to that core issue, that's where you're going to see a lot of that success. So, Aaron, just to wrap up here, how would you prevent, let me talk to the wife? How would you prevent that objection?
Yeah, I prevent that objection by, there's two ways, but my biggest way is saying, okay, well, I've got a non-talk to the wife price and I've got a talk to the wife price. And I love that one because they laugh a little bit. It builds the credibility between you and them, that rapport, and it lowers their guard because they get to laugh a little bit.
Yeah.
But you can explain to them, well, I've got a price today. If you need to go back and talk to the wife, that's not a problem because you just wasted my time on the phone needing to go talk to her. So you can pay me for it. Or I can give you the price of like, hey, let's just knock this out right now. And the talk to the wife price is always just like $300 above retail. And they feel like they're getting such a big discount. but it's something
Yeah.
that a lot of people don't use or don't think about, of like, oh, well, let me give you two prices. It's not that you're pressuring them into buying right now, but you're just blocking the objection from it ever
Yeah.
even happening, right?
Well, the other thing I want to mention there is that's a very good segue into that special offer, right? Because if it is a price issue, they're going to want a deal.
Always.
They're going to want a deal. They're going to want to feel like they're getting a good deal with whatever your price is. You see this. I see this with clients and detailers I talk with who are offering coatings, you know, below 1,000, 1,500, and above 2,000. You run into the same issue. It's just how
Always.
you overcome those that really makes or breaks that deal. So if you could use that as a way to disarm them, right, to where you're lowering their guard, now you're becoming more friendly with them, you're able to joke with them. Now it's like, well, I don't even need to talk to the wife. Like, I can make that decision right here, right now. Plus, you gave me, Aaron, you gave me a good reason to really think about that decision with that special offer. The wife pricing, the let me talk to the wife pricing, and the non let me talk to the wife pricing.
Exactly right. And the biggest snippet / golden nugget, if you've watched to the end of this video, is that you're going to be in a way different bracket of clientele if you increase your pricing just a little bit. And it's going to knock out a lot of the objections of price. Now you're going to get into objections of quality and service, which are a lot easier to overcome than price objections by just raising your prices. Make the industry go round and round. Everybody can eat.
Yes. So with that being said, that was pricing objections. The most common pricing objections that I've gotten, through surveys, just clients reaching out, detailers reaching out, and just asking about, hey, how do I overcome X, Y, and Z? What do you say with this scenario? So hopefully this video will be that one guide when it comes to pricing objections. So Aaron, thank you so much for your time. I think this was super informative. And with that being said, we'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.
Thank you so much, everybody, for having me. See you next
All
week.
right.